they think is special, be it running,
Right.
receiving, or just something very athletic. The way he throws the ball and this instinctive thing he seems to have, does that impress them, you think?
I think it does, and I think they've seen it in practice a lot, but it's, now 2 weeks in a row we've seen some pretty good things in the game from that standpoint. And I think the players saw it last week. I know the receivers did against South Carolina. A couple of those plays were really good plays. And then there were some things he did this week that they see it. So it's like anything, the more you see it over time, the challenge is going to be, can Tyler keep his focus and perform like that every week?
Coach, you talked about how difficult this was for Matt. Have you observed the relationship between the two guys, and how important is that to the success of this team?
I don't think they have to be best friends, and they're not. But the relationship has been good and it's been supportive. I think it's hard anytime. It's not just the quarterback. We've had a lot of personnel changes, and it's hard on a guy. And then they get in the meeting room, it's just different. On the practice field, it's different looking around. It's different at the dining hall. It's just different. And then you just get settled in, and you get over that. I think the important thing we all got to remember is the success we have on the field doesn't define you as a man. It doesn't. And you can still be Matt Sims and the confident, outgoing, personable guy you are, and he will be. And I told him that. And so whether he has success or not on the field, or whether he's not getting the opportunity that he wants, it shouldn't define who he is as a man. And it shouldn't define his relationship with the teammates, and I don't think it will.
Derek, do you still feel like you're too far removed from bowl game to bring that up as motivation? And what about the seniors on this team who maybe think of that as a source of motivation?
Well, I'd like to get motivated by saying let's win an SEC game before we talk about a bowl game. I mean, that ought to motivate us more because we haven't. We're 0-5, and I think I'm not going to sit here and say that nobody should think about the bowl game, because that's human nature. But we're not going to get to a bowl game if we don't beat Ole Miss, and that's all our mind should be on. So I think the biggest thing is let's go out there and put together a complete game against an SEC opponent. We hadn't done that.
Last week you talked about Tyler's kind of even keel personality. Do you like that about him, or do you wish that there were moments that he kind of got fired up?
I think there's no perfect quarterbacks. There's no perfect personalities. I think that personality is a strength in a lot of ways because he doesn't get fazed. Now, it drives you nuts sometimes. Jimmy made the comment. When was his first time with you guys? Alabama week, and Jimmy's going to just, Tyler, come over here before you go to the media now. We need to, I'm good, man. I got this. So I think he's one of those guys, he's got a lot of confidence, and that's a great quality. Now, what comes with that is sometimes guys like that have to experience some heavy failures to learn, if that makes sense. So even though we say don't throw it when they do that, it's going to take an interception for a touchdown for him to really learn it. Does that make sense with the personality? That's usually what very confident players are like. That, hey, I know you told me that, but I'm not your average Joe. And then they do it, and then they go, well, maybe I can't do that one. So they learn through experiences.
Derek, if Marsalis, Art, Naz, none of them can give you anything, what options are you down to at this point? Is it still just maybe not playing man, then going to zone all the time? What are you looking at in the secondary right now?
I don't know. That's kind of what we were last week. You know, that's what we are right now. Our options are, that's it. I'm hoping Teague will be back. We just don't have a lot of guys. You know, we traveled C.J. Fleming. Just then, I don't know what to tell you, Austin. You know, Anthony played a lot more than he has. We're just thin. We don't have a lot of guys back there.
Did you see improvement in the zone, and also does that put pressure on the front seven to do more to ease the back end?
Not always, because what it does is it really prevents you from pressuring more than you like. So not so much on the front four. If you play man free, you still need a good pass rush with the front four, but then where it really worries you is when you're going to dial up some blitzes. And so if the man-on-man stuff scares you and you blitz and you don't get there, you know, that's where it hamstrings you a little bit when you're scared to death. But I mean, you know, I don't know what else to say. We just struggle at playing man-to-man. You know, you got to have a lot of guys who can run and cover, and we don't really have that on our team right now.
Are you seeing an improvement or progress out of Montoya Hughes?
Minimal. I think he's got a lot of willingness, Jimmy, but I'm going to say what I said about him several weeks ago, which is we probably all put too high of expectation on him coming in here just because of how he looks. So he's just a long way to go to being a good football player and playing with the right kind of technique and discipline to where he can be a factor in the game. And, you know, right now he's just not doing it consistently. He's not where he's supposed to be a lot of times.
Has he completely bought into the system that you guys are trying to teach, or do you think that's part of it?
No, I don't think there's a buy-in issue. I think he likes our program, and I think he believes in our program. I just don't think he's understands it well enough, and he's got a lot of work to do on that end.
Derek, that being said, Malik Jackson, what he's been able to do
Yeah.
this year, he could have gone someplace else. Can you imagine
Yeah.
not having him?
Yeah. Imagine not having Brewer, Gooch, a lot of these guys, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys. You say, what if we didn't have him? You know, that we picked up here this past year. But Malik's been just a tremendous boost for us inside. And we need more of him. He was very disruptive in the game. He got 2 tackles for loss, a couple of sacks, a lot of tackles and interceptions. So I hope he can keep playing that way.
He said he was in the wrong place on the said he was in the wrong place on the interception. He told us he was in the wrong, he wasn't supposed to be dropping back.
I don't think that's right. It was whole coverage. So when did he tell you that, after the game?
No,
No,
just 2
right
minutes ago.
today.
Oh, he told you today? They must have corrected it for him. I didn't know that. The defensive coaches didn't tell me that. They must have kept it a secret when watching the film together. I said, this whole coverage really works good. I'm gonna give him Wilcox after this one.
Derek, are you really result oriented and flexible in terms of whether a player is doing everything exactly right the way he's instructed, or if he ad-libs a little bit and get results, not just about quarterback, but in general? How do you feel about that?
Well, I think you have to earn that right a little bit, if that makes sense, John. So it's a little bit what I alluded to a couple of weeks ago that got a lot of attention. My analogy wasn't very good. What I was saying was you need on every team and at every position, there's points in a game where you have to have creativity and initiative but it's gotta be within the framework of the defense, if that makes sense, or the offense. So never in a game, if they did exactly what we told them to do, would it work? Because there's always minor adjustments and some creativity that you have to put into it that every good player does. And so, yeah, but it's got to be within the framework of the system. So if you have an understanding of the system and you understand what you're doing, the risk you're taking, and why you're taking it, then most times it doesn't hurt the team. Every now and then it will, and then what goes with that is how special a player are you? All right, when you are making a lot more good plays for us by doing this, and not giving up a lot of plays, then we have a lot more flexibility. But when you're jumping around 10 times and 9 times it's killing us, and 1 time it helped us, then we got to get back to the system. So it's kind of I didn't give you a black and white answer. You know, it's relative to your understanding of the system and operating within the framework, and then what is the production that's resulting from you doing this?
Derek, one of the positive results of going to a bowl game is you get the extra practices. In college basketball, even if you don't get the tournament, they allow you to practice until the tournament's over. Why don't they do that in football?
I don't know. We probably have mutiny changing that rule. I wish we could, man. I don't know. That's a NCAA issue. I don't know if it has to do with. And you know, I'll be honest with you. I didn't realize you could do that in basketball until last year when Coach Summit had her team out there, and I'm kind of looking around going, isn't that a violation? You know, I'm going to do this every year if we don't make it. But then that's when I learned. So I think it's a great thing, but I would suspect it's, you know, they'll talk about safety and schoolwork and the same issues, but I don't know.
Has there ever been a proposal?
It's probably never been proposed.
That's what I was,
Yeah. And I don't know what kind of support it would get or not.
Would you support it?
Yeah, I don't have a, doesn't bother me. I'd want to do some work with them. Again, you especially got a young team, and if you don't make it, you want to develop them a little bit. I think it'd be a good thing.
Derek, you're starting to see more teams doing this hurry-up offense. Florida started doing it. You see other teams doing it, not totally, but in parts of the game.
Yeah.
Simulating Oregon somewhat. Do you think this is a trend, and it's going to be everybody's going to start running a hurry-up offense? And what's the downside to running?
Yeah. Well, I think it's something that's been going on in the last 10 years. So I don't think Oregon's really the reason. Oregon's a very different animal. We did some hurry up. I don't know if y'all remember in LSU, we were doing a lot of no huddle, trying to. There's some benefits to it. The benefits are, generally speaking, the defenses aren't as aggressive. They slow down a little bit. That's the theory. And that's a good thing. Now, the downside is, unless you are systematically set up to call your whole offense real quickly in a no-huddle form, it's administratively difficult, and it minimizes what you can do on offense, especially formation. So if you are an offense that does a lot of different formations and moving and stuff, the no-huddle stuff, you know, it's harder to do. And but we have it in our offense built in. I think it's also an issue of you got when you have a lot of young guys, quarterbacks, receivers. It just takes a lot of practice, and you got to kind of phase it in, and it's got to be a part of your system. We did it at Tech. We were no huddle for 3 years at Tech.